20 overall, and that kind of draft capital brings not only opportunity, but also pressure, because getting these selections right could define the next era of Cowboys football, and internally, the organization understands exactly what is at stake, with key decision-makers like McClay emphasizing just how crucial this moment is, pointing out that having 2 first-round picks gives Dallas the flexibility to reshape the roster, address major weaknesses, and build a stronger, more complete team, especially after a disappointing defensive season that saw the Cowboys struggle in multiple areas, including giving up over 30 points per game, one of the worst marks in the league. And when you look at the direction of recent mock drafts from top analysts, a very clear theme begins to emerge. The Cowboys are heavily expected to focus on defense, particularly in the secondary and along the defensive front, and it all starts with the 12th overall pick, where different analysts have very different visions for what Dallas could do. With Dane Brugler projecting a somewhat unexpected choice in Mansour Delane, a cornerback out of LSU, a player known more for his instincts and awareness than elite physical traits, someone who excels in both man and zone coverage, showing the ability to anticipate routes and make plays on the ball, which could be exactly what Dallas needs as they try to stabilize a secondary that has been inconsistent. While other analysts like Lance Zierlein see a completely different direction, linking Dallas to Keldrick Falk, a powerful edge rusher from Auburn, a player with impressive size and versatility who can line up on the edge or slide inside, offering flexibility along the defensive line. And even though his 2025 production may not jump off the page, the upside is undeniable, making him a classic high-ceiling pick that teams often fall in love with. And then there are analysts like Joel Klatt who believe the Cowboys should go in a completely different direction altogether by selecting Caleb Downs, the standout safety from Ohio State, a player widely regarded as one of the best defensive prospects in the entire draft, someone who has the ability to completely transform a defense with his intelligence, range, and playmaking ability, and despite concerns about positional value. Klatt makes it clear that this is not a player Dallas should overthink, especially considering how badly the defense struggled last season. And when you shift to the 20th overall pick, the possibilities become just as interesting, because this is where Dallas could either double down on a position or continue to spread talent across multiple areas, with players like Avion Terrell from Clemson showing up in multiple projections, a physical and competitive cornerback who brings toughness and energy to the secondary, something the Cowboys desperately need, while others like Jordan Reed suggest that Dallas could get aggressive by trading down and targeting players like Dylan Thiemann, a safety from Oregon who has been rising up draft boards thanks to his elite athletic testing, including blazing speed and explosive jumping ability, combined with strong instincts and versatility, making him a perfect fit for modern defensive schemes that rely heavily on 2 high safety looks. And what makes this scenario even more compelling is the idea that Dallas could double-dip in the secondary, adding both Thiemann and Terrell to completely reshape the back end of the defense in one single draft. A bold strategy that could pay off immediately if both players develop as expected. And then there are trade scenarios that add another layer of intrigue, with some projections having Dallas move down from 20 to pick 25 in a deal with the Chicago Bears, selecting Colton Hood, another aggressive cornerback known for his physical style and willingness to contribute in run defense, while also gaining additional draft capital, which could be used to address other needs across the roster. And when you take a step back and look at all these possibilities, one thing becomes very clear: the Cowboys are in a position of rare flexibility. They can stay put and take the best players available. They can trade up for a difference maker, or they can trade down and accumulate more assets. And that kind of optionality is exactly what teams dream of having during the draft, but also means there is no margin for error, because with 2 first-round picks, expectations are doubled. Fans are watching closely, and every decision will be scrutinized, especially for a franchise like Dallas that is constantly under the national spotlight. And ultimately, this draft could come down to one simple question: do the Cowboys prioritize immediate impact or long-term upside? Do they go after polished players who can contribute right away, or do they take swings on high-ceiling prospects who may take time to develop but could become stars in the future? And whichever path they choose, One thing is certain: the 2026 NFL Draft will play a massive role in shaping the identity of this team moving forward. Because whether it is a shutdown corner, a dominant edge rusher, or a playmaking safety, the Cowboys need difference makers. They need players who can change games, and most importantly, they need to get these picks right because opportunities like this do not come around often. And what Dallas does with picks 12 and 20 could ultimately determine whether this team remains stuck in mediocrity or finally takes that next step toward true contention. Make a major defensive upgrade that could push this team closer to championship contention. And for a moment, it truly felt like they were on the verge of pulling off one of the biggest trades in recent NFL history. A blockbuster move for Maxx Crosby, the dominant pass rusher from the Las Vegas Raiders, a player who brings relentless energy, elite production, and a mindset that can completely transform a defense. But just when it seemed like the deal had real momentum, everything fell apart. And now the Cowboys are left facing a very different reality, one where they must pivot quickly and smartly if they want to stay competitive in a loaded NFC. Because the truth is, missing out on a player like Crosby is not just about losing talent. It is about losing an identity piece, someone who could have immediately become the face of the Cowboys' defense. Someone offenses would have to game plan around every single week. But the Raiders made their stance very clear. They wanted 2 first-round picks. And for Dallas, that price was simply too high, especially when you factor in Crosby's recent injury recovery, which adds an extra layer of risk to an already massive investment. And so, instead of forcing a move that could hurt them long-term, the Cowboys made the difficult but calculated decision to walk away, and according to reports, they were devastated, which tells you just how serious they were about making. That deal happened, but in the NFL, things change fast. And the best organizations are the ones that know how to adapt. And that brings us to a very intriguing alternative that is starting to gain traction, a potential trade for Minnesota Vikings linebacker Jonathan Greenard. A move that may not carry the same headline power as a Crosby deal, but could quietly be one of the smartest decisions Dallas makes this offseason. Because unlike the Crosby situation, this is not about overpaying for a superstar. This is about finding value, balance, and flexibility. And the proposed trade scenario really highlights that strategy, with the Cowboys sending their number 20 pick along with picks 92 and 218 to Minnesota in exchange for pick 32, pick 82, and Greenard himself. And when you really break that down, it becomes clear that this is not just a player acquisition. It is a calculated reshaping of draft capital, because moving from pick 20 to 32 still keeps Dallas in the first round, which is incredibly important for contract control and long-term planning, while also moving up in the third round from 92 to 82, giving them a better position to add another impactful player. And on top of that, they land a proven defensive contributor in Greenard, who, when healthy, has shown the ability to consistently pressure quarterbacks and disrupt opposing offenses, recording 25 sacks across the 2023 and 2024 seasons, which is no small feat in today's NFL. But of course, this move is not without its risks, because injuries have been a concern, particularly during the 2025 season where his production dipped, raising questions about durability and long-term reliability. And then there's the contract situation, as Greenard is currently under a 4-year, $76 million deal that runs through 2027, but reports indicate that he is looking for a new contract, meaning any team that trades for him must be prepared to negotiate and potentially commit even more financially, which creates an interesting dilemma for the Cowboys front office. Do they see Greenard as a long-term cornerstone worth investing in, or is he simply a short-term piece to strengthen the rotation? And that decision will ultimately define how successful this move could be. But what makes this situation even more compelling is how it reflects the Cowboys' overall approach to team building. Because missing out on Crosby could have easily pushed them into desperation mode, leading to reckless decisions, or overpaying for lesser talent. But instead, they appear to be taking a more measured path, focusing on depth, versatility, and maintaining future assets. And that is something that often separates good teams from great ones, the ability to stay disciplined even when a big opportunity slips away. And if this trade for Greenard does happen, it would not be about replacing Crosby one for one, because that is simply not realistic. It would be about creating a more balanced defensive unit. One that relies on multiple contributors rather than a single superstar. And in many ways, that could make the Cowboys more unpredictable and harder to game plan against, especially if their young players continue to develop alongside experienced veterans, creating a rotation that keeps players fresh and maintains consistent pressure throughout the game. And while fans may initially feel disappointed that the team did not land a player of Crosby's caliber, it is important to understand the bigger picture, because giving up 2 first-round picks is not just a short-term sacrifice. It is a long-term gamble that can impact a franchise for years, and the Cowboys clearly were not willing to take that risk, which suggests a level of discipline that has not always been associated with this organization, and that alone could be a sign of growth within the front office. But the question still remains, is this the right move? Is pivoting to someone like Greenwood enough to elevate this defense to the next level, or will the absence of a true elite pass rusher continue to hold them back in critical moments? And that is something we will only be able to answer as the season unfolds, because on paper, this looks like a smart, calculated decision. But football is not played on paper. It is played on the field, where health, chemistry, and execution ultimately determine success. And for the Cowboys, this offseason may not be defined by the move they did not make, but rather by how well they respond to it, because sometimes the best decisions are not the flashy ones that dominate headlines, but the quieter moves that build a stronger, more complete team over time. And if Jonathan Greenwood can stay healthy and perform at the level he has shown in the past, this could end up being one of those moves that people look back on and say, this is where the Cowboys made the right call, even if it did not feel like it at the moment. As the opening week of free agency winds down, one position continues to stand out as a major need on the roster: linebacker. Dallas has made some moves this offseason, but the depth and long-term stability at linebacker still raise serious questions. With the 2026 NFL Draft still weeks away, the Cowboys front office could still explore several options to improve the unit, either through free agency or potential trades. Cowboys fans know that linebacker has been a position that fluctuated throughout the past few seasons. Injuries, inconsistency, and roster turnover have made it difficult for Dallas to maintain a stable core in the middle of the defense. Even with stars on the defensive line and in the secondary, the linebacker group often determines whether a defense can truly dominate. That's why speculation is growing that Dallas could still target veteran help before the draft. Let's start with the top remaining free agents the Cowboys could consider. One intriguing name still available is Bobby Okereke. Okereke has quietly become one of the most reliable linebackers in the league over the past few years. Known for his tackling ability, range, and leadership, he could immediately step into a starting role in Dallas. The Cowboys' defense thrives on speed and playmaking, and Okereke's sideline-to-sideline ability would fit nicely into that system. Another veteran who always seems to draw interest is Bobby Wagner. Even late in his career, Wagner continues to produce at an elite level. The future Hall of Famer brings unmatched leadership, experience, and football IQ. While he may not have the same speed he once did, his ability to diagnose plays and command a defense could be extremely valuable for a team with championship aspirations like the Cowboys. Then there's longtime Buccaneers leader Lavonte David. David has been one of the most underrated linebackers of the past decade. His versatility allows him to cover tight ends, rush the passer, and stop the run effectively. If Dallas is looking for a veteran who can still perform at a high level while mentoring younger players, David could be an excellent fit. A slightly younger option is Jermaine Pratt, who has developed into a dependable linebacker with strong tackling and coverage ability. Pratt could provide stability in the middle of the Cowboys' defense and might still have several productive years ahead of him. Another experienced name worth watching is Shaq Thompson. Thompson has been a consistent playmaker when healthy and has the athleticism to thrive in modern defensive schemes. If the Cowboys want a linebacker who can contribute in both run defense and pass coverage, Thompson could be a smart addition. There are also several rotational options that could help strengthen Dallas' depth. Elandon Roberts is known for his physical run defense and leadership. Jahlani Tavai has carved out a role as a tough, versatile linebacker who can contribute on multiple downs. And Jerome Baker brings speed and coverage ability that could help Dallas match up against modern passing offenses. Veterans like Eric Kendricks, Logan Wilson, and Kenneth Murray also represent potential options depending on how the market develops. Kendricks has long been one of the league's smartest linebackers. Wilson is known for his playmaking instincts, and Murray offers athletic upside that some teams still believe could be unlocked in the right system. However, free agency may not be the only path the Cowboys explore. There is also the possibility that Dallas looks toward the trade market to find a solution. One fascinating trade target is Patrick Queen of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Queen has developed into a dynamic linebacker capable of making plays all over the field. His speed and aggressiveness would perfectly match the Cowboys' defensive philosophy. If Pittsburgh were willing to move him, Dallas could view him as a long-term answer. Another intriguing option is Jordan Brooks from the Miami Dolphins. Brooks is known for his tackling production and athletic ability. He's the type of linebacker who can rack up tackles while also contributing in coverage and blitz packages. The Cowboys could also look at Pete Werner from the New Orleans Saints. Werner has quietly become one of the most consistent linebackers in the league. His ability to diagnose plays and make quick decisions could be extremely valuable for Dallas defense. Another player who could draw interest is T.J. Edwards of the Chicago Bears. Edwards is a tackling machine and one of the most dependable run defenders in the NFL. While he may not be flashy, his reliability could help stabilize the Cowboys' linebacker unit. Two additional names to watch include Tyrel Dodson and Dee Winters. Dodson has shown flashes as a productive linebacker, while Winters represents a younger option with developmental upside. Ultimately, the Cowboys' decision could come down to timing. With the 2026 NFL Draft approaching, the front office must determine whether to address linebacker immediately or wait for young talent in the draft class. Some analysts believe Dallas could combine both strategies, adding a veteran for short-term stability while drafting a linebacker to develop for the future. What's clear is that the Cowboys cannot ignore this position if they want to compete for a championship. A strong linebacker core is essential for stopping the run, defending against tight ends, and maintaining balance in a modern NFL defense. As free agency continues to unfold and trade rumors heat up, Cowboys fans should keep a close eye on the linebacker market. Whether it's a veteran signing, a surprise trade, or a draft pick, Dallas still has multiple paths to strengthen the heart of its defense. And if the Cowboys make the right move, this defense could become even more dangerous heading into the 2026 season. Suddenly find themselves searching for answers. And the reason? A move that few fans saw coming. The Cowboys have traded defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to the San Francisco 49ers, leaving a massive hole in the middle of their defensive front. This development has sparked questions across the entire NFL landscape. Why would Dallas move on from a player they just committed big money to? How does this affect their defensive scheme going forward? And perhaps most importantly, who in the world is going to replace him? Today, we're going to break down everything, from the reasoning behind the trade, to the Cowboys' shifting defensive philosophy, to potential replacements like veteran superstar Calais Campbell. We'll also take a deep dive into the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft and analyze prospects like Colton Hood, who could play a major role in Dallas' future. So let's start from the beginning. The Cowboys' defensive line was once a strength. Just 1 year ago, the Cowboys looked unstoppable on the interior defensive line. They had assembled what many considered a dream rotation. Leading the group was Osa Odigizua, a player Dallas had just rewarded with a massive 4-year contract worth $80 million. Odigizua had developed into one of the most reliable interior pass rushers in the league, bringing quickness, disruption, and consistent pressure from the inside. But he wasn't alone. Dallas also made a huge move by acquiring Kenny Clark from the Green Bay Packers. Clark had long been one of the league's most respected defensive tackles, known for his strength at the point of attack and ability to collapse the pocket. Then, in another blockbuster move, Dallas traded for Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets. At that moment, analysts across the league agreed on one thing. The Cowboys had the most expensive and possibly the most talented defensive tackle rotation in football. All three players were earning more than $20 million per season. The expectation was simple. Quarterbacks would have nowhere to step up in the pocket. Running backs would struggle to find gaps. And opposing offensive lines would be overwhelmed by the sheer power and depth of Dallas' interior defense. But then something changed. A new defensive scheme changes everything. The biggest shift came when Dallas began transitioning to a 3-4 defensive scheme. This change dramatically altered the way defensive linemen were used. In a traditional 4-3 defense, interior defensive tackles like Odigizua often play as penetrating disruptors. Their job is to attack gaps, get into the backfield, and pressure the quarterback. But in a 3-4 system, the responsibilities can be very different. Instead of simply attacking, defensive linemen often need to occupy blockers, control gaps, and allow linebackers to make plays. For certain players, that transition is seamless. For others, it's not an ideal fit. In this case, Odigizua was expected to move into a 4-eye alignment, a position that lines up on the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. While he certainly has the talent to adapt, many within the organization reportedly believed he was not the best schematic fit for the new system. That's when the trade conversations began, and eventually, the Cowboys decided to pull the trigger. The trade that shocked fans. The decision to trade Osa Odigizua to the San Francisco 49ers caught many fans off guard. After all, this was a player the Cowboys had just invested heavily in. But when teams change schemes, roster priorities often shift dramatically. Dallas already had Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams anchoring the interior. With a new defensive philosophy in place, the front office may have believed Odigizua was the most logical player to move. Still, the trade leaves a major problem. The Cowboys suddenly need a starting-caliber defensive tackle, and the timing couldn't be worse. Free agency options are disappearing. The free agent market for defensive tackles has been shrinking quickly. Several of the best available veterans have already signed with new teams. Among them are players like Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Deshaun Hand. One by one, these players have disappeared from the market, leaving the Cowboys with fewer and fewer options. And now, one name stands out above the rest. The veteran who refuses to slow down. Enter Calais Campbell. At nearly 40 years old, Campbell is one of the oldest defensive linemen still playing in the NFL. But what makes him remarkable is that he still performs at a high level. Many players begin declining in their early 30s. Campbell, however, continues to produce season after season. Over an astonishing 18-year career, he has consistently generated quarterback pressures, disrupted offenses, and provided leadership in every locker room he's joined. According to Pro Football Focus, Campbell has recorded 30 or more quarterback pressures in almost every season of his career. Even more impressive, he has maintained a PFF grade above 70 for 15 consecutive seasons. That level of consistency is almost unheard of. For the Cowboys, signing Campbell could provide immediate stability. Not only would he help fill the hole left by Odigizua, but he would also bring experience and leadership to a defense undergoing major changes. Of course, there's one big question. How much does Campbell have left in the tank? The draft could be the real solution. While free agency might provide a short-term answer, the long-term future of the Cowboys' defense likely lies in the upcoming NFL draft. The 2026 NFL draft is expected to be loaded with defensive talent, and Dallas currently holds 2 first-round picks. This gives them enormous flexibility. However, their draft strategy became far more complicated after another shocking move earlier this offseason. The Cowboys traded superstar pass rusher Micah Parsons in exchange for those 2 first-round selections. It was a controversial decision. Parsons had been one of the most dominant defensive players in football, but the trade signaled something very clear. Dallas is entering a new era. A full defensive rebuild may already be underway. Could the Cowboys target a cornerback? One position that has quickly become a priority is cornerback. Among the most intriguing prospects in the draft is Tennessee standout Colton Hood. Hood wasn't originally expected to be a first-round pick, but after a dominant season with the Volunteers, his stock has skyrocketed. Standing just under 6 feet tall and weighing around 193 pounds, Hood combines speed, physicality, and toughness. His 4.44-second 40-yard dash shows he has the long speed needed to keep up with elite NFL receivers. But what really stands out is his aggressive playing style. Hood thrives in press coverage, using his hands to disrupt receivers at the line of scrimmage. Many scouts believe his style is perfectly suited for teams that want to play man-to, guys away from big headlines. But during the first wave of this year's free agency period, their strategy has looked a little different. Instead of chasing the biggest names on the market, Dallas has taken a far more calculated approach. The front office is focused on value signings, depth additions, and strategic upgrades, rather than the massive splash moves that dominate headlines. And while some fans may find that approach frustrating, there's a strong argument that it's actually the smartest path forward for the team. Let's take a closer look at what the Cowboys have done so far, and what moves might still be coming. Strengthening the secondary. One of the Cowboys' biggest priorities entering free agency was the secondary. In today's NFL, defenses live and die by their ability to defend the pass. With elite quarterbacks and explosive receivers dominating the league, having reliable defensive backs is absolutely essential. Dallas addressed this need by adding 2 experienced safeties. First, they brought in Jalen Thompson, a versatile defensive back known for his range and playmaking ability. Thompson has built a reputation as a reliable coverage defender who can also step up in run support. Alongside him, the Cowboys signed P.J. Locke, another player who brings toughness and flexibility to the defensive backfield. These moves may not dominate sports talk shows, but they matter. Strong safety play can transform a defense, especially in a system that relies heavily on communication and discipline. For Dallas, adding Thompson and Locke gives the coaching staff more flexibility when designing coverage schemes. But the Cowboys weren't finished with the secondary just yet. A potential steal at cornerback. One of the more intriguing additions of the offseason came when Dallas signed former Los Angeles Rams cornerback Cobie Durant. Durant may not be a household name yet, but he's a player many scouts believe has significant upside. During his time with the Rams, Durant showed flashes of becoming a very capable cover corner. His quickness, instincts, and ability to break on the ball make him a valuable asset in both zone and man coverage. For the Cowboys, Durant represents the kind of low-risk, high-reward signing that smart teams love to make. If he develops into a reliable starter, Dallas will have secured a key defensive piece at a bargain price. If not, he still provides quality depth. Either way, it's a win. Reinforcing the defensive line. The Cowboys also made a move to strengthen the interior of their defensive line by signing former Los Angeles Chargers nose tackle Otito Ogbonnia. Ogbonnia isn't known for flashy statistics, but that's not really his role. As a nose tackle, his primary responsibility is to anchor the middle of the defense, absorb blockers, and prevent opposing offenses from running the ball effectively. In a 3-4 defensive scheme, that role is incredibly important. Having a strong nose tackle allows linebackers to stay clean and make plays. For Dallas, Ogbonnia adds size, strength, and rotational depth to a defensive front that is still undergoing major changes. But even after these signings, the Cowboys still have several needs to address. And with the major free agency splashes likely behind them, the team may now turn its attention to affordable veteran options. Potential bargain free agents. As the free agency market continues to thin out, several veteran players remain available who could provide value for the Cowboys. These aren't superstar signings, but they could fill important roles. Let's look at 3 names that could make sense for Dallas. Larry Ogunjobi, defensive line depth. The first player to watch is veteran defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi spent the 2025 season with the Buffalo Bills after signing a 1-year contract worth $8.3 million. Unfortunately for both sides, the season didn't go as planned. Ogunjobi was suspended for the first 6 games after violating the NFL's PD policy, which significantly limited his impact during the year. When he returned, he played in 10 games and recorded 19 tackles. Perhaps the most surprising statistic? He finished the season without a single sack, the first time that had happened in his entire 9-year career. But numbers don't always tell the full story. Ogunjobi still has valuable experience and versatility. During his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he gained significant experience playing defensive end in a 3-4 scheme. That makes him an intriguing potential fit for the Cowboys. He may not be a star anymore, but as a rotational defensive lineman, he could provide stability and depth. Bobby Wagner, veteran leadership. If there's one name on this list that NFL fans immediately recognize, it's Bobby Wagner. Few linebackers in league history have built a resume as impressive as Wagner's. A future Hall of Famer, Wagner spent the majority of his legendary career with the Seattle Seahawks, where he became one of the defining defensive players of his generation. Now, at age 36, many assumed his best days were behind him, but last season proved otherwise. While playing for the Washington Commanders, Wagner delivered an astonishing stat line. 160, but the depth and long-term stability at linebacker still raise serious questions. With the 2026 NFL Draft still weeks away, the Cowboys front office could still explore several options to improve the unit, either through free agency or potential trades. Cowboys fans know that linebacker has been a position that fluctuated throughout the past few seasons. Injuries, inconsistency, and roster turnover have made it difficult for Dallas to maintain a stable core in the middle of the defense. Even with stars on the defensive line and in the secondary, the linebacker group often determines whether a defense can truly dominate. That's why speculation is growing that Dallas could still target veteran help before the draft. Let's start with the top remaining free agents the Cowboys could consider. One intriguing name still available is Bobby Okereke. Okereke has quietly become one of the most reliable linebackers in the league over the past few years. Known for his tackling ability, range, and leadership, he could immediately step into a starting role in Dallas. The Cowboys' defense thrives on speed and playmaking, and Okereke's sideline-to-sideline ability would fit nicely into that system. Another veteran who always seems to draw interest is Bobby Wagner. Even late in his career, Wagner continues to produce at an elite level. The future Hall of Famer brings unmatched leadership, experience, and football IQ. While he may not have the same speed he once did, his ability to diagnose plays and command a defense could be extremely valuable for a team with championship aspirations like the Cowboys. Then there's longtime Buccaneers leader Lavonte David. David has been one of the most underrated linebackers of the past decade. His versatility allows him to cover tight ends, rush the passer, and stop the run effectively. If Dallas is looking for a veteran who can still perform at a high level while mentoring younger players, David could be an excellent fit. A slightly younger option is Jermaine Pratt, who has developed into a dependable linebacker with strong tackling and coverage ability. Pratt could provide stability in the middle of the Cowboys' defense and might still have several productive years ahead of him. Another experienced name worth watching is Shaq Thompson. Thompson has been a consistent playmaker when healthy and has the athleticism to thrive in modern defensive schemes. If the Cowboys